Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together. The Plus Sides Podcast, because every story deserves to be heard, every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.
Alive on the moon, Mounjaro, it's on the pen alive, with your host David Knapp.
Thank you, Claptrack, and happy Thursday night. Welcome to On the Pen Live. I'm Dave Knapp, man on the Mounjaro. That's why I'm here. You are on the pen. Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, Ozempic, Mounjaro, Zepbound. That is why you're here. And we're all here for the community to share our experiences with GLP-1 medications, to share our experiences with the issues that we faced, diabetes, obesity, metabolic disorder. We're here to do it in community. And you, if I might say so myself, are the best community out there. Thank you for being here. If you're new here, put an N in the chat next to your name. Let me know that you're new here. I'd love to welcome you by name. Like I said, I'm Dave Knapp, man on the Mounjaro, really man on the Ozempic for a couple weeks now. I have been sharing my experience on Ozempic and put that all into a playlist today for you. So you can follow that. I gave an update today first to the members of the channel. The members are folks who come in here to the community. They see what we're doing here. They believe in it, and they put their money where their mouth is. And for $2.99 a month, they become members. They get access to special emojis. They get access to custom videos before they drop sometimes, and all for $2.99 a month, which gives back to the work that I do and helps me to do things like buy neon signs that say On the Pen and build a little studio out with, we're just looking more legit now. I like that. And I do that thanks to the members. So if you would like to become a member, you can do that. Like Sue, the dude who has been a member and a moderator for 10 months. You can do that by clicking the link in the description of this video. And I am so thankful to those of you who have chosen to do that. You make this happen. So excited for the show tonight. We've got a great show tonight with an awesome guest that doesn't get any better than the guest we have tonight. Chrissy G is in the house. Let me know in the chat if you're excited to hear back from Chrissy G. It has been a while since we've heard an update from her. So happy and thrilled that she was willing to come on the show this week. So we're going to run through our normal deal here. Well, we'll talk about what's fresh in the world of GLP-1s. We'll talk about fake news in the world of GLP-1s. And then we will have our hot channel tonight, which is Chrissy G, who is back on the pen. So she'll be sharing some of her stories tonight. Also, the biggest super chat of the night gets to choose where I put 1 milligram of Ozempic, which will make it 2 milligrams for the day. I definitely want that second dose today. So we're going to do 2 milligrams for the day. So whoever gives the biggest super chat of the night gets to choose where that injection goes. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Ozempic, man on the Ozempic. It has been quite the journey for me. And so before I get too involved in what that journey's been like, we're going to just go through a little bit of housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
You want mint for pillow? What kind of hotel is this? The housekeeping of the week. Hopefully, some of you have been receiving some packages from ya boy this week. Those of you who joined a couple weeks ago, we did a giveaway to the members of the channel. So thank you for being members. And as a way to give back during this holiday season, we gave away some fun prizes. And so if you won and you got back to me with where to send them, you should have received those this week. So thank you for those who participated in that. Thank you for the members of the channel, and I hope that you're enjoying those. If you got your package, let me know it in the chat. I see, I think a couple people mentioned that earlier, so I'm glad that you got those. I think life is short. I think maybe all up in the comments as well, so glad you got those. So Ozempic, let's talk. I did an update today, like I said, so if you'd like to check out my journey so far on Ozempic and get the full rundown, you can check out that video. Thank you for the super chat, AJ. I really, really appreciate that. Dave, CEO on The Pen. Let's raise the super chat stakes. Yeah, hey, thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. The super chats are what make this thing happen. Super chats and membership. So thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, you get the full rundown there. Honestly, the appetite suppression for me, the delayed gastric emptying is a game changer with semaglutide. I never thought I would be saying this. I was hopeful that when I made the switch that I would get a little bit more in the way of appetite suppression than I ever did really with Mounjaro. And so far, that's been the case. I think there was a little bit of a honeymoon with it. Thank you, Sue the Dude, for gifting a membership. Really appreciate that. Somebody else, welcome to the club. The suppression is better. So somebody asked me in the comments, it was Mark, I think, earlier today about glucose control and asked if I could share that information, and I will. So I've been on Ozempic for 2 months now, or 2 weeks now, sorry, 2 weeks. And it seems about the same. I got to say, there's been some Christmas parties and things like that really are, probably impacting the amount of sugar that I consume, or not necessarily sugar, because I've never been real big on sugar, but carbohydrates in general. So it's not going to be the greatest representation probably of, the drug, but, I'm at, I don't even know if you're going to be able to see that. But 111 is about the average for the last 2 weeks. The last 7 days and the last 2 weeks, 111 is the average glucose. And prior to that, with 15 milligrams of Mounjaro, I was running at 107. So 107 was like where I was at. So I'm 4 points higher, which is pretty negligible. So if it's doing about the same thing, I did notice maybe that my morning, so when you're diabetic, you sometimes have this thing, it's called the dawn phenomenon, which is just a rise in your blood glucose in the morning. It's kind of your liver is producing some sugar to get you ready for the day. I think I have more of that effect with semaglutide than I did with tirzepatide. So perhaps tirzepatide was a little bit superior for me in the glucose control, keeping the spikes down. But I'm happy so far with Ozempic. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to take that second dose of 1 milligram tonight. It's a 2 milligram prescription. I've been kind of spacing it out throughout the week, but I wanted to get 2 full milligrams in a day. So I started the day with 1 milligram. I'll end the day with 1 milligram. So far, the biggest super chat of the night is AJ, who's got it at $9.99. So we'll do that a little bit later. Somebody also asked me about the waning effect of tirzepatide at the different dosage levels for their blood glucose. So they asked, even if I'm still losing a little bit of weight on the 5 milligrams, if my blood sugars are creeping up, should I talk to my doctor about increasing my dose? And absolutely I would. If your sugars are becoming less controlled on a certain dose and you're still losing weight, let's remember, for those of you who are diabetic, it is doing 2 things for us. And so if your sugars are creeping up to a level that you're uncomfortable with and you're only on the 5 milligrams, you got a lot more of the ladder to climb. So I would definitely be talking to my doctor about that if I were you. But that is, again, just me. It's not medical advice. It's just what I would do if I were in those same shoes. So those are the few things that I wanted to address tonight in the housekeeping segment of the show. I want to get right into the news because there's some really good news. There's a lot of different things I could have covered tonight for the news, but tonight, for the purpose of tonight's show, we're going to cover the Senate hearings from today. So I hope if y'all knew about those, I did a video earlier in the week or perhaps last week. So what's fresh tonight is some of the information that came out of these Senate hearings. This is a story of about how Bernie Sanders was sticking it to big food. So very interesting committee hearing today. So this was the committee that is headed up by Senator Bernie Sanders, independent from, where is he from? Vermont? Somewhere up in the Northeast. I can't remember which state Bernie's from. But he heads up the Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. And really what they wanted to tackle today was the massive increase in type 2 diabetes and the massive increase in obesity and how the two correlate and what we can do about bringing those numbers down and having fewer people developing these diseases, what maybe is causing that, and what we can do to increase accessibility. So this is by no means an indictment on anybody's politics. I'm not personally one who's found myself agreeing that often with Bernie Sanders, but I got to tell you, watching the hearings today was fascinating in light of everything that I have learned about these medications, about insurance companies. It was just a fascinating conversation. And I'll kind of give my take on it towards the end of this, but I just wanted to throw out some of the reasons, the numbers behind the reason that they did want to have these hearings today. So they wanted to answer the following three questions in this hearing today. So that's why we've seen such a huge increase in type 2 diabetes over the last 50 years, how that's impacting our healthcare system, and how do we make treatments more available for people without bankrupting Medicare and Medicaid in the process, right? They threw out a statistic that if they were to open up Medicare to GLP-1 medications, it would add something in the ballpark of $27 billion to the tab for Medicare in a given year. So they wanted to really dive into what is the reason for obesity, what about our diet, what about the way that we're marketed to is contributing to that. So it's a very fascinating conversation. 35 million people in the United States have type 2 diabetes. And according to the American Diabetes Association, this represents a $413 billion tab on the economy. And that is up 27% in the last 6 years. A very unsustainable pace when you talk about the cost of healthcare and treating type 2 diabetes. 90% of those with diabetes are obesity. You may have heard of diabesity. Which is kind of the two can go hand in hand. People are genetically going to be predisposed to it, but obesity is a huge contributing factor to those who develop type 2 diabetes. Since 1970s, childhood obesity has tripled. 1 in 5 kids and 40% of adults are obese, fall in the obese category, and they are predicting a 700% increase in the next 40 years in childhood obesity unless we intervene, and this is according to the CDC. So all very interesting information. Now, what was some of the most interesting information? And for Bernie Sanders' part at the beginning of it, it really harkened back to the days where they were grilling the CEOs of Philip Morris and how they were marketing cigarettes to children and tobacco products to children. And they actually talked about how a lot of big tobacco's holdings was also in big food, and how many of those marketing tactics were just super, transposed into their food products. So the marketing that they were using for cigarettes and the way that they were making it more appealing to the masses, including children, was just moved over into food. And also the concoctions, the recipes for the foods, more refined carbohydrates, more sugar, especially when we talk about sugary beverages for children. So just obviously all things that contribute to diabetes and diabesity, especially in children. And so one of the big things that Bernie is lobbying for is to basically ban marketing of junk food to children and to he highlighted the fact that there's $14 billion spent on marketing junk food, however they define that, junk food, a year, and 2 billion of that is directly marketed to children. So banning those ads to children. They talked about the massive amounts of junk food ads that children see on Disney and Nickelodeon, and the programming that, interesting that they call it programming, right? The programming that they put out for children. So yeah, all very interesting conversation. Where it got to how do we actually make these medications and these treatments more affordable? Because I think there's two kind of conversations here. One is how do we regulate big business so that they're not taking advantage of vulnerable people and vulnerable populations, including children and minorities? That's a separate conversation, in my opinion, to the accessibility of the treatments, the GLP-1 treatments, because lots of conversation took place around not only type 2 diabetes, but type 1 diabetes. And we're learning the GLP-1 medications, that early intervention with type 1 diabetes helps to preserve beta cell function in type 1 diabetics. So this is all great. These medications are great, but they're not great if people have access to them. And this is where I really felt like the conversation, at least for the first part of it, was really missing the mark, because it seemed like a lot of shade was thrown at big pharma, as if they were the only ones to go after when we're talking about accessibility and affordability of the medicines. And in my experience and what I've learned, that's just not true. It's just not true. What's happening is the PBMs, the middleman, the literal middleman, is controlling what medications go on their formularies by basically offering a pay-to-play scheme, basically legal corruption, pay-to-play to get the medicines on the formulary. So oftentimes PBMs, who are the ones that determine the formularies, are getting 10, 20, 30% kickbacks on the cost of a medication just to put it on the formulary. That's where the waste is. That's where people are getting screwed, because you can come after big pharma and take away their incentive to make money on these medications, but that just stifles innovation. The innovation is what brought us the very drugs that our senators are sitting around a table arguing, how do we increase access to these? So without them, there's no drugs to even argue about as far as treatments go. But these PBMs must be put in check. These insurance companies, who are oftentimes becoming these PBMs, need to be put in check. That's why there was some really great news out of New Jersey this week, where legislation was passed for PBM reform. And there's more things coming, some of it out of this committee with different members of this committee in the Senate, but TBD, right? I mean, so much of the insurance companies, the lobby that goes along with it, have these politicians in their pockets, and it's very, very difficult and hard to imagine that we'll see real reform. But if we want to go after the price of medications, we have to go after the PBMs. The PBMs are the ones that are causing so much inaccessibility to these medicines, both by gatekeeping the formularies, but by increasing the cost of these medications by the way that they structure their deals with big pharmaceutical companies. And what do they actually do? What value are they actually providing to us, besides getting in between us and our doctors? You know, I had a conversation with CVS Caremark 2 weeks ago when I was trying to get a prior authorization for a diabetes medication. I have a well-documented case of type 2 diabetes. And I called them and I said, what is going on? Why can't I get access to my medication? It's been 2 weeks. Well, we have this process to make sure that you're getting access to the right medication for your treatment. I said, excuse me, you're not a doctor. You're a PBM. My doctor is my doctor. He's the one who decides what medication is best for me, not you. And she tried to argue with me. I was like, listen, you and I are going to have to agree to disagree on this, but this is nonsense. And this is just one story of one guy who's diabetic. I've heard stories from people who work for PBMs who have anonymously reached out to me and told me that they've had to tell people with cancer, old ladies with cancer, that they're not going to be able to get the treatment that they want because basically it was being gatekept by the PBM. The PBMs need to be dealt with. If there's one thing right under the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act that we can be advocating for, when it comes to accessibility and affordability of these medications, it is PBM reform. And we need to start getting loud about PBM reform. So that's what's fresh. There's more to cover on that, and perhaps I'll do a separate video for the sake of time on these hearings, because there was a lot of experts that came on that had a lot of really interesting things to say. And kudos also, I just do want to give a shout out to Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas, who actually did bring PBM reform into the conversation in a very meaningful and impactful way, I thought. And he talked about how baked within the drug act that they're putting together, that they're trying to delink the administration fees from the PBMs to the cost of the drugs. So that would help, separate the cost of a medication. So very, very interesting, very interesting thing to follow today. And that is what's fresh. So Sue the Dude is telling me that I need to read Trish's comment. So I try to scroll up and see how far am I scrolling up here. Apparently Trish is a type 2 diabetic who lost access to Mounjaro. I'm not seeing the comment, but if Trish is still here and wants to put that back in the chat. BJ, welcome to the stream. Hey, if you're new here, welcome. It's good to have you all here. Put an N in the chat next to your name. Let me know that you're new here. I'd like to welcome you by name. But yeah, if Trish wants to put that, unless he's talking about Patricia Burkham. Sorry, yeah, I'm not seeing that, Sue. Maybe they can put that back in the chat and we'll come back to it. I want to keep moving through the show here because we've got awesome guests and I don't want to burn too much time before that, but we're going to talk about the fake news of the week. So let's take out the trash. We already talked about what's fresh. I just wanted to roll the bumper again. Let's actually take out the trash. So let's take out the trash. Let's talk about Oprah. Y'all want to talk about Oprah? So I did a video earlier this week, maybe it was even last week, about some reporting. It turned out that it was pretty disingenuous reporting. It was basically a red carpet week for the color purple, and Oprah was part of that. And she came out and she was looking not like a 70-year-old woman. She was in very good shape, and just turned a lot of heads, and there was a lot of articles written about it. And interestingly, the articles that were written about it were all kind of saying the same thing, that Oprah was saying that she thought GLP-1 medications were the easy way out. I did a quick video about it. No big deal. I don't really focus too much on celebrities and what celebrities think. Matter of fact, I don't really care what any celebrities think. But I thought it was interesting given her platform and given that she is heavily invested, or was at least at one time heavily invested in Weight Watchers. So I thought, I want people to understand that it doesn't matter what Oprah or any celebrity does, says, or thinks about GLP-1s. What matters is what you think about your own journey and whether those tools could be used to effectively help you. And so, I just made a quick video about that. Interestingly enough, it came out yesterday. She responded, I think probably because of all the bad press that she got from these articles. And basically they were disingenuously quoting something that she said back from her panel that she did, where our buddy Lee from Lee Fits In, right? At Lee Fits In over here on YouTube. He's on TikTok as well. He was on the pen just a few weeks ago. He was part of that panel. And he said right away, now that's what she said when she was doing that panel. And she actually said, in the context she said, when I first found out about them, I thought that they were the easy way out. Obviously she's changed her tune on that because she came out this week in response to those articles and said, no, that's not true. I'm actually on a GLP-1 for maintenance. So very interesting. Oprah's on the pen. Good for Oprah. And I think good for her for sharing it. She didn't have to share that. She didn't owe it to anybody to share it. I think that it is helpful for anybody with a platform to echo what we've been saying on here, whether it's me, other creators like Chrissy, or any of the content creators in the GLP-1 space. Kim from over on the plus sides also jumps out. Like, there should be no shame in treating what's metabolically broken. That's what these medications do. So much science has evolved. Justin, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you here. Appreciate you being here over on Facebook. But yeah, anybody who can echo that message that there should be no shame in treating what's biologically broken. And people who struggle with obesity, metabolic issues, we're just fixing something that's broken, and there should be no shame in that, regardless of what Oprah says or anybody, or even what I say. But we here on the pen, and our friends like Chrissy and Kim and Mindy, and all of the creators over here on YouTube and on TikTok that talk about this stuff on a daily basis. Janine, we'll keep harping on it too. There's no shame in fixing what's metabolically broken. Donna, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you here, sweetheart. I hope you're doing well. Merry Christmas to you. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. The fake news really is just that she didn't actually say that she thought GLP-1s were the easy way out. She said that when she first found out about them, she thought that, but she is indeed on the pen. So that's the news for this week. Justin says, it sucks to be addicted to something you have to partake in order to live. Yeah, that is definitely a interesting dichotomy, right? When you talk about things like addiction to food and things like that. So welcome. Glad you're here. So yeah, we want to move on because we've got a great guest tonight. So we're going to bring her into the stream. Tonight, we are excited to welcome in the Hot Channel. She's been here before. She's here again. We're going to welcome in
Hot Channel.
Chrissy, welcome to the stream. Oh, let me take that thing off my face. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's awesome to have you back. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being so chill about last week when I had to change plans. So good to have you back.
Of course. Yes, I'm happy to be here. Let me adjust this because I see half my head's missing off the screen there. Let's see if that's better. There we go.
Pretty Christmas tree.
Thank you.
It's my favorite time of year.
Mine too. Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, I'm really happy that you invited me back on your channel. I'm really happy to be here. I've been MIA on my own channel for a while. It's just I've had like creator's block. I haven't really had a lot to update on, and so it's just been I've been away for a while, and I hate it because I miss the conversation among our community. And so I'm just happy to be here and appreciative that you had me on your channel tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. You've got an open invitation. And when I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, I know people were excited to have you back in here. Hey, if you are excited that Chrissy G is here tonight, put it in the chat. Let her know that you're excited to have her here. So I'm so thrilled that you wanted to come back. So thrilled that you're making content again. The GLP-1 space on YouTube is better when you're making content. So I'm glad. We're glad to have you back on behalf of everybody who, like me, I could have a creator block or whatever you called it there. But I have so many people that just send me stuff. They're like, do a video on this, do a video on that. Okay. So if that helps me through those times because people are like, here, do this. So I settle a bet. Okay. So, or not a bet, but like I started a new job. I've been driving around with this guy. Really interesting guy, actually. He sold diabetes medication for like 30 years. And so we've been able to talk about all sorts of interesting things. But he is one of those people who is avid. A Christmas tree does not go up until Thanksgiving night. How early does Chrissy G put her tree up?
A week before Thanksgiving.
I love it.
Yes.
To me, Christmas is like Halloween to March 1st.
Exactly.
Like the tree is going to be up. The lights are going to be up. Can Christmas season actually be too long? In my book, no.
No, and I'm already like, I'm gonna be so sad. I have this almost the same tree at work. I did the same color scheme and everything, and it calms me so much. It just warms the space, and it just makes me feel so good. Like I could have the most stressful day at work, and I'm like staring at my tree, and I'm like, you're so pretty. Like I don't want you to come down. So I'm already. It's not even Christmas yet, and I'm already like, no, I don't want it to come down. So.
I think you and my wife are wired a lot alike in that way because she feels the same way about our tree. And I do too. Like the way she decorated it's just so pretty. It's like, it's very feminine, but it's just very pretty. And it just makes the whole house feel so homey and cozy. Mm-hmm. And she actually like throughout the tree, not in like a tacky way, but just like runs 1 or 2 strands of lights that subtly twinkle. Right. Mm-hmm. So like the tree is mostly just the solid color like on your tree, but just there's a few in there that just will kind of twinkle. And it's just like, I don't know, it's so peaceful. You can't exactly. Like why would you just put that between Thanksgiving night and Christmas? I don't agree with that at all. Can't be too long. So tell us a little. So you took a little bit of a hiatus, and I think part of that was you stopped taking GLP-1, right, for a little bit. So tell us like a little bit about what that was about, and then what ultimately had you looking back towards Mounjaro.
So my doctor initially wanted me to get down to 175, and I was like, you're crazy and all that good stuff when I was at the 240 mark. And so I got down to 185, as everyone that's followed my journey knows. So I lost just about 60 pounds at that point. And for a while, as many of us have done at some point in our journeys, when we kind of fluctuate the same 2 or 3 pounds and we're just kind of steadily in that range, I ended up at 185. I got all the way down to 178, but I quickly stabilized and maintained at 185. And so I was kind of like, you know what? I think I got this. I've learned portion control through my journey. I know about how much I should be eating to be able to sustain my weight. And so I said, let's, it was a big debate, and I talked and vented a lot about it on my channel. Like, I didn't know if I was really ready to get off, because you get into that, like, I need it. It becomes an addiction, and you feel like, what's going to happen when I come off these medications? And the terrifying thought of potentially regaining the weight that you work so hard to come off, because I know some people think we're cheating by doing this, or we're taking the easy way out by doing this, but we're absolutely not. It still requires work. It's not some magic shot that just melts your fat. Like, that is not how that works. And so it still requires a lot of patience, a lot of dedication, learning how to eat better, learning portion control. It's not easy. And so I finally made the decision to say, you know what, I'm tired. I'm tired of chasing the medication. I'm tired of fighting, the humiliation of going to your doctor and feeling like you're a failure because you need to stay on this medication and all that. Like, it's just a lot of emotions. And that's why I said it's been an emotional roller coaster through the entire journey. And so the first 2 weeks were the hardest, because at that point I'm feeling like just anxiety, just like everything I'm eating, I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm gonna gain the weight. I'm gonna, so the first 2 weeks were awful. And then, I slowly start to gain a pound here, gain a pound there, and I'm starting to freak out. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting closer to 190. Like, I was so happy being in the 180s for so long. And now I'm starting to get closer to the 190s. And I got all the way to 194 when I was like, that's enough. Like, I'm getting close to 200 at this point, and I vowed that I would never see the 200s again. I was like, I never want to be in the 200s again. So I sought out a nurse practitioner, who then prescribed me back on Mounjaro, and like I said, my insurance covered it, and so I got back on it. And so it didn't come off as easy as it did the first time. But granted that when I first started this journey, I was at 241 pounds or so.
You had a lot more to lose.
Right. So it was a lot easier. So cutting down a little bit made a big difference, versus now I'm at 194. So I'm not as heavy as I was in the beginning. So I want to say the first month back on it, I think I only lost about 4 pounds. And now I'm on the tail end of the second month, and I've lost another about 6 pounds, because I've lost a total of 11 in just almost 2 months. It's been just about 7 weeks that I've been on it again. So it wasn't too bad. It just wasn't as fast as it was, but it's still pretty good. The biggest difference, though, while I was on that 3-month break, is that the hunger comes back with a vengeance. And it's because you forget what that satiety feels like. Like, you forget that on the injection, even if I were to get hungry, there was no way I could consume so many calories, because I immediately get full. I get full after a few bites. So even if I'm hungry and I choose to eat, I would get full very quickly, versus when you're not on the medication, you're hungry, but you can eat, and you want to eat till you feel satisfied. And that's where the issue for me, the biggest issue for me, was not being on it, is that portion control just goes right out the window when you're still hungry after a few bites. You want to feel full, you want to feel satisfied. And so that was the biggest problem for me. And that's what's scary, because I know that at some point, just like I mentioned, again, I'm having issues with the insurance wanting to cover Mounjaro, because my nurse practitioner now is claiming that they got slapped on the hand by the FDA, and they do not want to push Mounjaro for non-diabetics, because now they've got Zepbound. And so that's what they need to push, for us who are not type 2 diabetics. And so I'm going in circles now trying to figure out how to access Zepbound and how to get the coupon, because every time I go to sign the HIPAA form, it tells me error occurred. And I've already gone 3 or 4 times to the website on different days, and it still, pulls up error. So I can't even download the coupon at this point.
Have you tried a different browser? Like changing the browser?
No, I guess I haven't. I'm always on Google, so I haven't.
I mean to do a video about this because I probably heard from 5 or 6 different people in different spots. Quick little plug for I have a Facebook group now. It's Zepbound for weight loss. But I've had several people in that group tell me that once they switched browsers, they had no issue. And I think it was Chrome that the people were having issues with. So just not
okay.
to
No, good. I'm glad to hear that, because it's frustrating me. Like, what do you mean error? And so I'm definitely going to jump on the computer and try it first thing tomorrow. So yeah, so that's where I'm at now. And of course my doctor is offering it in office, and he's like, don't worry though, if your insurance doesn't cover it, I offer it in office and you come in weekly. And I'm like, what a hassle to have to come in weekly to your office to get an injection that I'm already been doing on my own for so long. And so that's frustrating, because it's all about the dollar signs for everybody at this point. And the desperation of us people who are mortified of gaining the weight, and you're almost willing to put yourself in this vulnerable state just to be able to maintain a weight loss or to keep losing weight. It's just terrible.
I 100% agree. And I think somebody said it best. This is not me saying this. This is somebody else that said it. I wish I remembered who I could attribute it to. But they said when things like what you just explained happen, and people are trying to capitalize on people's desperation, whatever that looks like. And I'm not even saying that this doctor necessarily is that, but there's definitely those out there who are. And it feels for people who have obesity, who have been suckered in by everything that we could spend money on that might help us to lose weight and actually finally get to where we want to be health-wise, only to have it not be the answer. It's like we're being victimized all over again and exploited all over again when people are just seizing on an opportunity to take advantage of people. And it just feels gross. And it feels especially gross when it comes from doctors, because doctors are, take an oath to do no harm. And when you're taking advantage of people in a vulnerable position like that, like, is it really doing no harm? And I don't know. Again, not an indictment on that doctor, but there are those out there who are, and it feels gross. One question that I had as you're talking about getting back on Mounjaro, so you were off for what, a couple months, right?
About 3 months. Yep.
3 months. Okay. So what dose did you jump back in at?
7.5.
Okay. It's interesting. There's a lot of people that I am seeing that are doing that maybe were on Mounjaro, lost access in June when the coupon changed, probably wrote out their 3 months that they stocked up on in June. So they've been out for a couple of months, and now they're trying Zepbound, and doctors are often jumping them in at that 7.5 dose. I'm also seeing a lot of people who are switching from Wegovy or Ozempic, where doctors are putting them on that 7.5 dose. And it seems to be, anecdotally, it seems to be a really good spot for people to jump in on. So you've responded to it. You said like a little bit slower, but it sounds like you are responding to it, which is very encouraging, because I'm sure it would be super discouraging to go on a 3-month hiatus, to feel all that anxiety that you would feel about just going off it and be like, can I do this? Is this going to be successful? To realize that you probably need it again, but then to be afraid of it not working. That would be a huge fear of mine if I would have been in that boat.
And I'm sorry, you guys, my bird's going to start talking with me, because as soon as I start talking, he wants to conversate with me. But so I apologize for that. But yes, that was, so I was hoping that they weren't going to want to bump me all the way to the beginning, because I felt like my body's already been on it. I didn't feel like I needed to go back, and I let the doctor know, or the nurse practitioner, like, hey, I think I'll be fine on 7.5. And they were like, that's fine if you think you'll be okay on it. If you're not, and you feel extremely sick or whatnot on it, then let us know and we'll bump you back down. But no, I came back on the 7.5. I always said that the 10 milligram was my favorite dose. That's where I ended. I think I ended on that one. No, I ended on the 7.5 because I weaned myself down from 7.5 and stopped. So going back onto the 7.5 was great, but the hunger suppression wasn't extreme like it was when I started my journey fresh, that my body was like, what is this? I've never had this crack in my body before. And it was like shocking. And when I initially went on the 2.5, but it did help right away. Like immediately the hunger suppression was there. And I was just like, oh my God, it's just incredible, right? Because we almost forget when you stay on these medications for so long, you almost forget what it felt like to be hungry all the time. And you feel like this is the new norm. And then when you get thrown off of it and it comes back and you're like, oh my God, like what a difference. Because, like my mom's been on it for over a year and she's lost over 120 pounds at this point. I mean, people don't recognize her anymore. She's literally half the person she was a year ago. And she'll tell me all the time, oh, it's not the medication anymore. It's me. I eat very little now. And I'm like, no, Mom, you don't understand. And she's on the 15 milligram. And I'm like, you think that it's you putting in all the effort, but in reality, this medication is still giving you that boost. And I can guarantee you, if you came off of it, you'd start regaining just because your body starts to want to eat a little bit more. So yes, she's done well. She's been able to maintain them. She's down to 128 now, which is crazy. She weighed that in her 20s and she's now, 59. And so she's over the moon. She's happy because she's just feeling the best she's ever felt. And she can't believe she's in size 3s now again, like if she was a teenager again. And so she's ecstatic, but she forgets, right? She feels like, no, this is normal. This is me putting in the effort. And I'm like, yeah, a big portion of it is you putting the effort, because obviously you've changed your habits. You're eating a lot less than you were at 245 pounds. But at the same token, you forget that it's not the norm. And the moment that you do come off, it becomes hard because you've got to eat very little to sustain 128 pounds, so that's the biggest factor.
Yeah. So I want to dovetail on what you're saying a little bit, and help provide, again, it's the way a different doctor friend of mine explained it to me. But when you talk about the feeling of hunger that you have and you kind of get used to it, or the feeling of appetite suppression or lack of hunger that you feel on these medications. And there's definitely a spectrum of how people feel because, not everybody responds to the same way. But when you talk about GLP-1, the most prominent of the incretin hormones, they're released in your body when you eat. They're released in response to food in your digestive system. But GLP-1 in its natural form lasts for a very short amount of time. These mimic GLP-1, but they last for a week. Or, the half-life is 5 days for this and it's 3 days for this, right? So much longer, where it's just, hours, minutes and hours that GLP-1 lasts in your body. So it actually is making you feel the same way as you eat as it does when you eat. And so when obviously you have a bunch of that in your system and then you remove it, you're going to be more hungry and you're going to consume more calories. And I'm glad you explained all that, because I was going to ask you that very question. Like, what do you think the weight gain ultimately came from? Do you think that it was that you're actually eating more than you were? And I was glad to hear that you are, because I think that's what everybody says, is like, you teach yourself good habits, you'll come off the medication and you'll just be eating less, because that's what you'll be doing. I'm like, that is pretty pie in the sky. There's going to be some people that I think are going to be able to do that. But like Eli Lilly just released trial data on tirzepatide. And guess what? Most people, if they come off it, they gain it back, or at least a good portion, maybe not all of it, but a good portion of it. And I think it's regardless of people's, again, their willpower or anything like that. It's hormonal.
So I completely agree. And so in the beginning, and a lot of my journey, and we should, right? The point of this medication is to learn better habits. It is to learn portion control, because unfortunately we think that, because I always felt like I'm not overeating. I don't overeat. I'm not eating 2 hamburgers and, a whole pizza by myself, because that's what you think that a person that weighs 500, 600 pounds is doing, right? That they're eating excessive amount of food. I always felt like I usually skip breakfast, and for lunch I have, maybe if I do get fast food, it would be just your normal burger, fries, and a drink, and a diet drink, because I don't drink calories, right? And so, because I rather eat them. And then for dinner, I have whatever it is that I cook, which is to me a normal portion. But then, when in the grand scheme of things, when you learn what you should really be eating for your height and your, being a female or a male, whatever it may be, it's a lot less than we're programmed to think that we can eat, because like you said, you see the commercials of what you think a normal lunch should be or what a normal typical dinner should be, but it's not. It's usually half of that portion or a fourth of that portion. And that's where we don't realize that we're overeating. And yes, for many people, it is hormonal or PCOS or diabetes. There's a lot of different things that contribute to why people gain or lose differently, right? But for me, my case personally, it's all about portion control. And one of my biggest focus was always, because people ask me, well, what do you do to what are you eating different, or are you eating healthy 80% of the time and then goofing off 20? I never really changed. I am eating a lot healthier. Obviously, I'm not eating the same way I did before these medications. But even then, I didn't cut any food groups out, because that's why Weight Watchers was a bit of a success for me at one point, because they don't really cut any one food group. And for me, I didn't want to do keto because I love fruit. At the end of the day, I love to eat fruits. And when I did keto for 2 months, I was miserable because I was like, I really miss pineapple. I miss mangoes. I miss peaches. Like, I love eating those things. And I didn't want to live a lifestyle where I felt punished for eating what would be considered a healthier option, right?
Right.
And so that didn't work for me. And so I always told people, don't go into an extreme diet while you're on this medication, because when you come off this medication, if you do eventually, and you go back to your old eating habits, the weight's going to come on just as fast as if not faster. And so me being off of it for 3 months and only gaining 9 pounds over the course of that 3 months wasn't too bad. It wasn't great, but it's because I increased the portions, not the calorie and not the type of food, right? It wasn't because, oh, now she's eating burgers and pizza. That wasn't the case. I was eating the same. The problem is that before, I was completely satisfied with a small piece of chicken breast with a few broccoli florets and a bite of mac and cheese or something. Now it's like I can eat 2 pieces of chicken breast, all my mac and cheese and the broccoli, And so that was the biggest difference for me. It wasn't so much that I'm eating unhealthy or anything like that. It was just that I could eat more. And so unfortunately, that's again that hunger, right? You don't have that same slow emptying of your stomach where it feels empty all the time. I was going to the restroom. I know TMI, but we all talk about this, right? On Mounjaro, It's like I can go 4 or 5 days without going. And when I was off of it for those 3 months, it was nice. I was going every day. My stomach was emptying as it should. And so, so I was always hungry.
Yeah. So I like that you brought that topic up, because I was talking to you before we started how I switched to Ozempic. And really, I felt like the 15 milligram for me, it gave me some really good appetite suppression at first, but I really didn't lose any weight on the 15 milligram. I lost my weight on the way up to the 15 milligram. And then the 15 milligram just helped me keep that 30 pounds off. But I never felt the delayed gastric emptying. I never felt it in bowel movements. I never saw it on my CGM. Like, I would eat and my sugars would go up. So I was like, that's just doesn't happen for me. And I think that's an essential part of the appetite suppression. So interestingly, and you've been on semaglutide, right?
Yes.
Can you start there?
Yes, 3 months.
Yeah. So for me, what's interesting is, even though people tend to lose more weight and have fewer side effects on Mounjaro, which is Zepbound, for those of you who are just tuning in and new to this, I feel the delayed emptying. I eat and my stomach stays full for a long time. Like, I can feel it in my stomach, and that's a new sensation for me. So just interesting to me that semaglutide is actually working better in that department for me. Can you speak a little bit to what your experience was? Because there's a lot of people who are moving from Wegovy. Again, Wegovy is Ozempic with a different name, just like Mounjaro is Zepbound with a different name. Can you tell everybody what your experience was, like what your experience was on Ozempic and then on Mounjaro, and what the difference that you felt was?
So I think for most people that started on a tirzepatide and are moving back down into a semaglutide, I think it's a little more difficult because I feel like Mounjaro is a little bit stronger. But if you start somewhere, then and you want to start, before your body gets used to it, I would suggest a semaglutide because I started on that. And in those 3 months that I was on it, I was losing a consistent 10 to 11 pounds a month on that. So that's
Wow.
why I always tell people you can still lose just as much weight on a semaglutide as you could on a tirzepatide. Like don't let that make you feel like, oh, it's not going to work or I'm not going to be able to lose the weight on it, because you can successfully lose it. Many people before Mounjaro was even talked about or existed, right? Many people would talk about, I had diabetes friends who would be like, oh, I've been on this new medication and I lost 15 pounds in a month. And I'd be like, what medication? And they're like, oh, it's a diabetes med. Back then we didn't know. Nobody knew that this was a weight loss drug or that people were using it for weight loss, right? But I knew a few diabetics who were on it who were talking about how they were losing weight on it. Now, once I moved into Mounjaro, we did that only because of the coupon. Like my doctor was like, hey, there's this new medication coming out. It's not even out yet, but it's fixing to come out. And because of that, they're offering a coupon. He's like, it's even better because not only does it have that GLP, but it has that GIP, which is basically a double punch for the hunger suppression portion of it and whatnot. And so that's the only reason why I switched. It wasn't because Ozempic wasn't working for me or anything like that. It was just because, okay, I'm paying $125 a month for the compound semaglutide, and now I can pay for this better medication for $25 a month. And so that's why we made the switch early on. And then I consistently lost 10 pounds or so the first month and two of Mounjaro, and then it started kind of weaning off. And I'm glad you mentioned that about how you didn't lose extreme amount of weight on 15 milligram, because that's another thing that I feel like people early on want to hurry up and titrate, because there's been this misconception of the higher the dose, the more you lose, right? And I know a lot of people who have lost a majority of their weight on the lower doses. Debbie at my office lost, I think she's at 50 pounds about, and she's never even titrated from the 5. She's been on the 5 the entire time. And then you have people like my mom, who's a diabetic, had high blood pressure, cholesterol, all that, and she wanted to hurry up and get to that 15. But she's lost 120 pounds, like I said. And people, say, well, I'm diabetic, so I can't lose it as fast. But I think it has a lot to do with also how much effort, because like my mom's been on it less time than I have, because she jumped on the bandwagon after I was on it for about 3 months. And she's like, oh, wait a minute, you're thinner than I am now. And I've never been thinner than my mom. I've always been much heavier than my mom. And she saw that I was successfully losing weight. And she's like, well, I'm diabetic. I should be able to get on this medication that you're on if it's for diabetes. And I was like, well, ask your doctor about it. And so she got on it and immediately started noticing a difference. And she surpassed me early. I stopped at 60 and she just kept flying, way past me. And she has diabetes and stuff. So I think, but she's a lot more conscious than I am. She eats a lot less than I do. And she always had a better metabolism than I did, because I always told my mom, if I ate like you ate, I'd be 400 pounds. Like she liked her chocolate, And so she has better metabolism. So she's able to lose it easily. Then we had like my cousin Erica, who's also a diabetic, who got kicked off of Mounjaro because her insurance wouldn't cover it. And then I feel sorry for people like her, because I'm like, you really need the medication. And how is it possible that you are type 2 diabetic and you can't have accessibility to a medication that you need or that, would help you? So it's all over the place. But it does require effort, and that's why I say it's not the easy way out for anyone. It still requires some effort and some dedication, because I have some coworkers who were on Mounjaro and lost the initial 10, 15 pounds, but they want to eat like normal. They still want to eat the same portions, and so they don't lose the weight that other people tend to lose on these medications. So no, I think go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I was going to ask you is, because I'm trying to true up what you're saying when you say try harder, because you say you didn't change the foods you ate, you just ate less, right? So what constitutes trying harder? Because to me, it's like how good the medication works for you or not. Because I've kind of been in the same camp with you, Chrissy. Like I did diet culture for 20 years and it got me to 320 pounds. And so really with this medication, what I was looking for was, I don't want to do anything dramatic because I want to be able to sustain a life that is balanced. Like, I want to be able to enjoy the foods that I want, and I want to be able to enjoy them in the amount that is appropriate for my body, that allows me to be at a healthy weight. So what do you think when you say the people who aren't trying, they're eating too much, they're eating the wrong foods? What's your opinion about that?
I think it's a combination of both, right? Because when I was losing the bulk of my weight, I was trying to add more steps to my day. We all know we were on Stride Kick for a while, and we were kind of competing, and I was adding a lot more exercise. I was being more strict on my portions. I was trying not to eat if I didn't have to. And now I'm a lot more relaxed, right? Like, yes, I'm cutting back, but obviously not enough to keep losing weight, because I kind of stay stuck here, right? And so I noticed that the weeks that I lose a little bit more are the weeks that I'm stricter on my diet. And that's why I say this is me personally, though, because I don't have anything else. We tested all my hormones, blood work, and all that. Everything else is fine. So for me, it really is portion control. So when I try harder to minimize my portion, some weeks I tend to lose more those weeks. Like my mom, she eats like a bird. Like, we go out to eat now, and I'm like, Mom, seriously? She orders an appetizer and we'll pick at the appetizer, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like you, I want to be able to enjoy the meals that I want to enjoy. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm just picking a few things off my plate and then like, okay, I'm done for the day. Like, no, I want to at least be able to enjoy somewhat. I don't want to feel like I'm deprived, because like you said, that's what created that binge eating culture, right? Like, that's what I did all my life. Like, I would starve myself and then I would binge eat because I wanted everything that I was telling myself I couldn't have. And that's why I said, no, you know what, with this medication, because it's helping me so much with my portion and being able to stop eating when I'm full, I'm going to not cut down that way, because I knew that the moment I didn't have access to the medication, I wasn't going to be able to have, what do you call it, willpower. That, people say it's because you need willpower. Well, yeah, willpower is easy when you're not hungry. It's easy to say no when you're not hungry, but guess what, when you're starving and you're driving to work in the morning and there's a McDonald's and a Dunkin' Donuts and a Starbucks at every corner, like, it's hard to be like, yeah, no, not going to stop there today. I'm going to go to work and have my coffee with a skinny girl. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Like, you have to mentally fight this urge every day. And when I'm not hungry, I don't think about it. I'm driving past all these places, no care in the world. But when you're like, your intestines are eating each other, it's hard. It's hard not to deviate and eat what you're not supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I think, the journey is unique to every individual, and what's going to be successful in the long term, TBD. I think I kept waiting for, the thing I said about Mounjaro for the longest time is that it allowed me to eat normal people food, normal people portions, and feel normal people full. And I still truly feel that way. It's just like the weight loss stopped at 30 pounds. And I've never been about doing anything dramatic on this specific journey with these medications, because I've done dramatic. It doesn't work. And so I guess, like, for me, I just needed more than Mounjaro was offering from I guess I need to eat 1,200 calories a day, but like, I can't do that that's not living to me. One of the interesting things that I heard, and again, I think that's biologic. Like you said, your mom can eat a certain way and you're like, I'd be 400 pounds. That's the case. And I think that one of the things that I've really enjoyed from Dr. Dan, I don't know if you know who Dr. Dan is, but he's a doctor,
On
pharmacist.
TikTok?
Yeah.
Is he on TikTok?
He's on TikTok. He's on YouTube too. So he was on the show like a couple of months ago, and he's like, I can't remember how he phrased it, but he's like, basically the bottom line of what he was saying is like, it's not just about hitting a weight. It's about hitting a weight and like being, from a 360-degree view, your happiest version of you. And your happiest version of you might not be the version of you that can't eat a carbohydrate.
Right.
It just might not be. It's like, you might be your ideal weight, but you feel miserable and deprived all the time. And like, you're punishing yourself. Like, is that actually happiness? Is that actually fulfillment? And so I just thought, like, that's the greatest way to look at it. And I think that that's the way that you're looking at it. I think there's a way that I'm looking at it. I just think that one of these days we're going to understand why these medications hit different for people, and it's the same reason, same thing, like why somebody can eat a certain way and not gain weight. And like you or I look at a donut and our face gets 2 times the size that it was yesterday. You know what I'm saying? Like, just even from day to day, I swear to God, like some days I'm like, why does my face look like I'm 10 pounds fatter today? And I'll look back and I'll be like, I must have like looked at a donut or something. I don't know. But someday we'll understand all that. Until we do, I think, it's just great to be in community, because one of the things that the GLP-1 journey has given me is just like a longevity, like a long-term commitment to finding what it takes to be healthy. But in the meantime, I haven't felt like I've been scratching and clawing my way there. And that's a huge gift. Because, even though I've kind of ticked back up a few pounds in weight, the Ozempic's got it going back in the other direction again, until like some folks were saying in the chat, until there are better options available, like retatrutide. There's a bunch of utides in the pipeline, right? And so someday we're going to get access to other ones that are more powerful. Like there's another one. I can't remember. There's so many in my brain anymore from reading everything that I've read, but there's some where people have lost more weight than Mounjaro in half the time. And those will be here. And some of us are going to need those. And at the end of the day, some of us, maybe myself included, might end up needing bariatric surgery to get to where we need to be. But in the meantime, it's so great to do it in community. I know you have a great community. If you are all or not following Chrissy, let me see if I have a banner that I can scroll. She's obviously over here on YouTube. Most of you are probably going to be well aware of that and already follow her content. But you're at TheRealCrissyG, right? And
Yes.
Are you at TheRealCrissyG everywhere, or what are your main call outs?
I think I'm at TheRealCrissyG on both here, YouTube and Instagram, and Threads, which I haven't really got into. I started my account, but it seems like a lot. And then, or maybe I'm just getting old and I feel like, oh my God, it's too much. And then on TikTok, I'm Chrissy G Life with Me on TikTok. So
awesome. Yeah, sometime we'll have to do a TikTok live together. That would be fun too. Do you ever do a TikTok live?
I used to do TikTok live all the time. That's actually where I started doing lives before I even did lives on YouTube. And I started growing my channel there. And then I don't know, I've been in this rut and I don't know why. I think it's because, like I said, I have creator's block, and I'm like, I was actually going to ask my community, like, let's do a Q&A, right? Because I get asked a lot of the same questions, which I'm sure you do too, all the time. It's usually the same questions, but because I haven't put any fresh content, I'm like, it would probably be a good time to address a lot of the common questions that we get all the time on this journey. So, and we've been on it for so long now, right, that we can speak to a lot of what's going on. And so I'm excited. I'm probably going to work on that soon, but so yeah, it's just I'm glad that you're doing well on Ozempic. I'm glad that you're sharing that, because it's important, right? A lot of people that are having to go back to Ozempic or Wegovy or whatnot are feeling discouraged, and I say absolutely not, because as you said, it may work better for you. There may be something different in the chemical makeup of Ozempic that may work better for you than Mounjaro. So I'm glad that you're sharing that, and I'm glad that you're doing well on that. And so, but yes, I mean, overall, I think even outside, and for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because my channel is growing a little bit more all of a sudden, but I'm getting a lot of negative comments, like people, saying, oh, you're willing to risk your, your health and cancer. And, there's just a lot of that lately. And I'm just like, but the sun causes cancer, right? So what am I supposed to do? Walk in a bubble outside? The air that we breathe causes cancer. And like my mom, people make the comment, they'll ask her, what's wrong? Are you sick? What's going on? Do you have cancer or something? And I'm like, people are so mean. Like, she's the happiest she's ever been. And people were like, what's wrong, when they see her, after. And so, and I'm glad that you mentioned the bariatric surgery, because that's another thing that there's people that I know who have had surgery, who my mom has now surpassed them in the same amount of time. She's lost more on this medication, and they're kind of looking at her like, are you kidding me? Like, I went and paid $20,000 and I lost 50 pounds, and you're over here paying $25 a month for a medication and you lost 120. How is this possible? So my cousin, I convinced her to get on the medication before she was considering surgery also, But yes, as you said, right, whatever it is that works for you. And like you said, it's not going to work the same for everybody. I couldn't believe it worked for me because I'm one of those people that I buy everything that works for everyone else, but it never works for me. And so when I got on this medication and it worked so well, because I get a lot of people who are like, well, I don't feel any suppression on the 2.5. And I did immediately. And so I'm like, be patient, it'll come. Maybe once you get up to a higher dose, you'll get that suppression. But and then you have the people on the other scale, right, that are like, I'm puking my brains out. And so it just works different for everyone, right? And like you said, I mean, it just depends. So I'm just happy that it's Ozempic is working for you. And for those who feel discouraged because they've been kicked off of tirzepatide and having to move over to semaglutide, I mean, don't let that discourage you. Like give it an opportunity, have that positive outlook, because that will help you get through your journey.
Absolutely. Great advice. Well, thank you for being here, Chrissy. We'll have to do it again sometime. Your eyelashes are on point tonight. I don't expect you to say the same to me. It's like, how are we going to top the last time you were on? I was like, how can I was like, there's no way to top doing makeup other than doing it again. And I think that was a one-time shot for me. But we're glad you're back on behalf of everybody. I know we're glad you're back to making content. I think, like I said, the community is better when people like you who are OGs have been doing it. And thank you also for sharing your journey, being honest about your journey, because there's people that need to know, like, you might need the medication to keep it off. Like, that's okay. Obesity is a chronic disease. And for most people, it's a treatment, not a cure. Just getting the weight off doesn't fix the broken biology. It doesn't fix the broken metabolism. So for most people, it's going to require a long-term treatment. But that said, I think your story is really important too. And I just really appreciate you sharing with the community your experience too. And we'll regroup in a couple months and do it again.
Of course. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for everyone in the comments who's saying hello. I was trying to keep up as I was here, but thank you for everyone who joined us, who joined in tonight to watch our live. And thank you so much. Like I said, I'm humbled for you having me on your show, and I appreciate it. And I always have a lot of fun when we talk, and it's nice. So thank you.
Totally. Good catching up. You have a Merry Christmas. It's great to see you.
You too. Merry Christmas, everybody.
All right. See you, Chrissy. Chrissy G, the real Chrissy G, at TheRealCrissyG over here on YouTube. If you're not already following her channel, why? She's the OG over here. So make sure you give Chrissy a follow. Thank you to her. Let her know in the chat that you're thankful that she has been here. I think her story is very important. There's a lot of people in her boat that are OGs on GLPs. They've hit their maintenance. They've gone off. They see their weight creeping back up, and they're terrified about it. And then, you've got the accessibility issues that compound that stress and that anxiety. So just really, really, really great that she's willing to come on and share and be open and honest about her journey as well. So thank you to Chrissy for being on the show tonight. Always a great conversation with Chrissy. So thank you to her for being here. Hey, it's time. I think Sue the Dude, I think the biggest super chat of the night belongs to AJ, the 999 super chat. So I gotta know AJ where this thing's going. I got it all queued up here. Ozempic. So this will make 2 milligrams for the day. So I'll be done taking it a week. So Thomas, hey, good to have you here tonight. I know you're in here. Low-key lurking. Thomas, great share of information. You gotta check it out. I sound funny. Face purple. Why am I sounding funny? Sorry. Where am I taking my shot? It's good that it's the end of the show. I'm sounding funny. Dave hasn't had. Let's try something. We'll try that. Is that better for now, at least? Fixed sound. Okay. Echo, is that better? We good? AJ, where am I taking this shot? Awesome. Yeah, I changed the microphone source. You're welcome, Chrissy. Bit better. Yeah. Sorry about that. I don't know why all of a sudden it's bad. I mean, I bumped it, so maybe I screwed it up. All right, AJ. 22 and beyond. I got to know where I'm taking this shot. You're leaving us all in suspense. Thigh. All right, we'll thigh it. This is a bit awkward because, like, if I'm taking it in my thigh, I gotta derobe a little bit. You all hear the zipper. This is like a little intimate tonight. All right, this is going in the thigh tonight. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. All right, back to 0. It feels. Who is that CNN guy during COVID who? I don't know. We're not going to get into it, but let's just suffice it to say it feels a bit awkward to have my pants halfway off while I'm live streaming to 100 people. But it is good to have you all here tonight. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being the best part of the channel. A couple shout outs tonight. The first shout out that I want to give is to Peptide Bite. Peptide Bite is a GLP-1 supplement specially formulated for those of us who are on a GLP-1. It's the only supplement that I found that is specially formulated for those on a GLP-1 journey. So the link to that is in the description of this video, Peptide Bite. Go to peptidebite.com, link in the description. Use code DavidK to save 10%. If you do that, you will be supporting the channel, and I would thank you for doing that. The other thing is we've got a Facebook group. It's called Zepbound for Weight Loss. It is a great group. It's growing by leaps and bounds. We've got close to 3,000 people over there now. So it would be great if you wanted to become a part of that community as well. Links are in the description. Glass bottle was broken in mail. I sent a glass bottle? What did I send? I don't remember sending a glass bottle. You got me, Deborah. Well, send me a message. We'll get you. Oh, Peptide Bite. Oh, that happened to you too? Did you? Okay. Send me a message, Deborah. I had somebody else told me the same thing. They use those glass bottles. They're good because they don't let light in that can damage the medication. But I've heard from a couple people that has happened. So the Peptide Bite. So send me a message. We'll make sure we get you squared away on that. That is, sorry to hear that. So yeah, thank you all for being here. Thank you for being the best part of the channel. Thank you for being here, joining Chrissy G and myself tonight. It's always a great conversation with Chrissy G. So it's good to have you all here. Make sure you go over to her channel, give her some love, and thank you all for being the best part of what I do. You really make this thing happen over here on the pen. Until next time, I hope you all have a great week of losing lots and lots of weight and getting the best, most healthiest version of you. But until we see you next week, have a great one, and we'll catch you on the next video.